Good morrow, everyone. This is The Other Side of Midnight. I'm Frank Morano. If you listen to the show, you know I am a fan of the Star Trek franchise. I have not seen the most recent couple of series. I've not seen Star Trek Discovery. I've not seen Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And I've not seen the animated show that a lot of people seem to really enjoy, Lower Decks. But I've seen Star Trek, the original series, Star Trek The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Enterprise, the animated series, and Picard. Right? I've seen those 6 series and all the movies, certainly. Now, as part of being a fan of Star Trek The Next Generation, which honestly is one of the greatest television programs of all time, I have always been a fan of LeVar Burton. LeVar Burton, who I've had the good privilege of interviewing a couple of times. He was always great whenever I've spoken to him. He was Geordi LaForge on Star Trek The Next Generation, but he also has a career as an actor and as a personality and as somebody that's done a lot of interesting things beyond Star Trek The Next Generation, probably best known for Roots as an actor other than on Star Trek The Next Generation. Also, very well known as a director. That's the opportunity that I had to interview him. I think he was directing an episode of CSI New Orleans. He also was the host of a children's show geared towards enhancing literacy called Reading Rainbow, which was actually a great show. And I think there's even a Reading Rainbow app that they're trying to market now that he's involved with. And he's done a lot of interesting things. And he very openly on Twitter was campaigning to be the new host of Jeopardy. By the way, I am still campaigning, although my campaign seems to have stalled, to be the next host of the Late Late Show on CBS, now that James Corden is retiring. Not a lot of people tweeting about that. If you tweet that, by the way, with the hashtag #LateLateFrankFrank, hopefully tagging some of the right people, I will retweet you. I think that would be a job that I would be well suited for. But LeVar Burton had been campaigning all over Twitter to be the new host of Jeopardy. He didn't get the gig. Initially, they picked this fella, Mike Richards, who was also one of the producers of the show. And then he apparently made some inappropriate remarks on a podcast many years ago and did some politically incorrect things. And that gives him in the cancel culture era in which we live in, a career death sentence, at least a career as a host of Jeopardy. So now there have been 2 rotating hosts. Ken Jennings, who of course is the winningest Jeopardy contestant we've ever had, and Mayim Bialik, who was, she played Blossom. That's what I really knew her from. But she's also very popular on a show, I believe it's The Big Bang Theory. And she also happens to be a neuroscientist. She's a published author, very bright woman, although she's been criticized for certain things, both as a host and doing other things. So, LeVar Burton, evidently, is still a little irked at being passed over as the host of Jeopardy. So he did an interview on a show called In the Loop, which is on a platform called Newsy. I have to tell you, I don't really know what In the Loop is. I don't know what Newsy is. The thing is now, there are so many different platforms. There's 9,000 channels. Then there's satellite channels. Then there's radio stations that have websites. Then there's websites that have radio stations. There's too many things to keep track of. So I don't know if Newsy is a website or a television channel, whatever. It's something. But they have this show on there called In the Loop, and LeVar Burton spoke to In the Loop about being a little disappointed, shall we say, about being passed over as the host of Jeopardy.
Experiencing a very public defeat, humiliation, if you will, was sobering. And what I learned from the experience, really, is that it reinforced my belief that everything happens for a reason. Even if you cannot discern the reason in the moment, in the fullness of time, everything will be revealed. And like I said, it was, I think, in that first week of feeling really sort of not just disappointed, but wrecked. I didn't expect that I would not be their choice for host. And the doors have been opened, windows have been opened, the phone hasn't stopped ringing. And I never would have experienced those things that I'm experiencing, like hosting the Script Spelling Bee, had I gotten that job. So I think it was a big lesson for me in just being willing to sit in the discomfort long enough to find out what was really supposed to happen for me around this game show thing.
So I thought those were interesting remarks. And I think what he says is true. Sometimes what you view as just devastating and disappointment, it could lead to other things. And now he's going to be hosting not only the Script Spelling Bee, which is pretty cool, but he's also the creator and the host of a new game show based on my favorite board game. Well, maybe my second favorite board game, because I do like Risk a lot. My second favorite board game, Trivial Pursuit. And I've always said for years that I would love to host a Trivial Pursuit game show. And I've always thought one would be successful, and I'm hopeful that this one with LeVar Burton will be successful. But here's the thing. So on the one hand, he seems to have a very positive attitude. But on the other, he's essentially complaining in this interview on Newsy that the whole process was fixed. And, you know, it sounds like some people that lose an election and complain that the election was rigged. He's saying that he never had an opportunity to compete because it was fixed. Now, at least in the clips that I've seen, they didn't get into precisely how the fix was in, as he says it. But apparently, according to LeVar Burton, this is what he said. And I honestly thought that I was well suited for. So he said, the truth is, this was my favorite game show. It really was. I mean, I watched the show since I was in the third grade and Art Fleming was the host. And I honestly thought that I was well suited for it. As it turns out, it really wasn't a competition after all. The fix was in. So Curtis sent me this article, and he just sent the words, sore loser. Now, it does seem like the fix was in, because Mike Richards, who was the person that was selected to host the game show, was one of the producers at the time. You know, it's like, and he was having a say in selecting the other fill-in hosts that he was competing with, knowing full well that he was competing with them. He was giving them feedback. He was doing all sorts of things where he was involved in the selection process as if he was an unbiased arbiter, when in fact he was very biased because he wanted the job for himself. So I disagree with Curtis's characterization. I mean, I don't think he thought about it for more than 30 seconds. He probably just was teasing me because he knows I'm a fan of Jeopardy and a fan of LeVar Burton. But the fix was in. I mean, it's like if Chad Lopez, the president of our radio station, better yet, John Catsimatidis, well, maybe Chad's a better example, right? Chad Lopez, the president of our radio station, wants to be considered as the new host of the morning show. Let's say Bernie and Sid's contract is up. They go to another radio station. They don't want to come up. They don't want to come back. And Chad Lopez wants to be considered as the host of the morning show on WABC. Well, I mean, if Chad is involved in the selection process, who do you think has a better chance of getting it? Chad or somebody else? Or Frank Morano? Of course it's Chad. Guy. So I found, he didn't seem bitter at all. He seemed to have a very, long view of the whole situation. And to me, that's why LeVar Burton is such an effective communicator, because he's passionate about what he does, because he loves education, because he loves Jeopardy. And this is part of the reason why I think I'd be a good show for that, a good host for that late show. And again, if you want to tweet about that, use the hashtag #LateLateFrankFrank.